Having a blessed day. I did a video earlier on the Ku Klux Klan and realized as I was doing the video that it pretty much lagged the first 6 minutes and 30 seconds of the video, which completely just ruined my introduction to the description of the Ku Klux Klan and the lesson and the points that I was trying to make. So I'm gonna have to re-edit that video. It takes about 24 hours for YouTube to fully process the video. So I'm gonna have to re-edit it, and which will unfortunately cut out the introduction of the Ku Klux Klan video where I'm actually breaking down the history. So I'm going to repeat that history of the Ku Klux Klan video here in this video as I'm discussing the Black Panther Party and their role against the fight of white supremacy, what white supremacy is, how the Black Panther Party originated. I figured this would be a good time since my daughter, she's currently with her mother, and I actually have some free time to breathe. So again, I'm just going to repeat the introduction of the Ku Klux Klan video because I will be editing out that section in the Ku Klux Klan content that I created. So I'm telling you, every time I get on YouTube, man, I'm getting like random messages, text me, hey, y'all guys, come holler at me in the YouTube video, man, come through, show some love. I'm trying to do these videos, man. You guys messaging me and calling me, and it kind of throws off the flow. But I appreciate you reaching out. So the Ku Klux Klan remains one of the most powerful symbols of organized hate in America's history. Born in 1865 in Pulaski, Tennessee, it fused white supremacy. Today, we're going to break white supremacy down in the Black Panther Party, Protestant nationalism, and anti-immigrant resentment and anti-Semitism into a movement cloaked in secrecy and ritual. At its height in the 1920s, the Klan boasted millions of members, including governors, senators, and law enforcement officials. They weaponized fear through lynching, intimidation, and political infiltration, while masking themselves as protectors of American values. All right. Their existence matters because they shaped centuries of African American experience, from lynchings and economic exclusion to cultural suppression. The Klan created deep trauma that still echoes in policing, politics, and racial disparities today. So again, I'm just rereading this Klan introduction and the Ku Klux Klan description and history introduction because I will be editing that out of my Ku Klux Klan video tomorrow because the video, the first 6 minutes was lagging. Shout out to the viewer who was watching the video and was able to catch that. It was lagging really bad. So I'm just going to edit that whole section out. But as it's getting edited out, you know, it's going to remove a lot of the history of the Ku Klux Klan that I was discussing because it was going through the lagging part of the video. So I'm just repeating it here. So that way, if you guys want to catch that early history again, you can get it under this Black Panther Party and white supremacy video. All right. So that's the reason why I'm repeating this introduction to the Ku Klux Klan video. It's going to be edited out. So their existence matters because they shaped centuries of African American experience, from lynchings and economic exclusion to cultural suppression. The Klan created deep trauma that still echoes in policing, politics, and racial disparities today. Yet the story is not only one of oppression, but also of resilience. Black churches, civil rights groups, and grassroots coalitions rose in direct response to their violence. All right, so we're going to talk about some of these groups, such as the Black Panther Party, in this video. All right, what gave the Klan its strength was secrecy. Hoods and robes hid members' identities, making it possible for politicians, sheriffs, judges, and even governors to wield official power by day and terrorize by night. Estimates suggest that in the 1920s, the Klan influenced at least 11 governors, 16 senators, and 75 representatives, making them not just a friend group, but a political force. States with Klan chapters. The KKK has had chapters in nearly every U.S. state. Its strongest bases historically included Indiana, Alabama, Georgia, Colorado, Oregon, Texas, Ohio, and Illinois. During the 1920s, it flourished in the Midwest and West, not just the South. Today, fractured groups remain in Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida, with smaller presences in Missouri, Indiana, and Arizona. Though weakened, the Klan's ideology persists in modern white nationalist networks. All right, I just have to repeat that because, again, I'm going to be editing that Klan video. The whole first 6 minutes and 30 seconds was just lagged. You know, one thing about YouTube, when you're looking through the screen in YouTube, you're all clear and all pretty, right? But then you go back and you watch the fucking tape and you're like, oh, and all this shit. So the whole introduction is going to get wiped out. All right. So I wanted just to repeat that so that way you capture that, because that sets the context of that video. But in this one, I'm going to segue into a discussion around white supremacy and the Black Panther Party, sort of like the Black Panther Party's sort of like origin, their function in response to a lot of the hatred that was going towards the African American community. All right, in American society. All right, there's not a lot of classes and educational courses on the Black Panther Party. I think that's an important part of American history. All right, Black people just didn't lay down. All right, we had some strong brothers who actually stood up and that fought against some of these ideologies to the best of their ability. Right, you're pretty much in a system that where the cards are stacked against you. So the Black Panther Party was born in Oakland, California in 1966, all right, during a time when African Americans faced not only systemic oppression, but also violent retaliation whenever they demanded justice, all right? So Black people were getting sort of, marginalized, they were being attacked, they were being murdered. You had lynchings, you had all sort of just crimes against the Black population and African American population occurring. And when these African Americans would try to stand up and fight against some of these issues, right, a lot of their voices was silenced. Well, I wonder why, because majority of these governments, right, and these police organizations were white. All right. Now, I'm not saying white is a bad thing. It's just, back in those days, if you were not a part of the dominant group, okay, you tend to be ostracized. And it wasn't all white people. You had a lot of white, people who did, or what they call them, white sympathizers, who did advocate for the Black community. You had a lot of white people who fought and died, right, and risked their life for African Americans, all right? But this is just for the topic of the white supremacy versus the African Americans. When Black people would try to fight against some of these injustices, it led to no avail, okay? So let me get organized here. I got to get everything together. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, it was only so much they can do. So the Black Panther Party was born in Oakland, California in 1966, during a time when African Americans faced not only systemic oppression, but also violent retaliation whenever they demanded justice. White supremacy had weaponized the police, courts, and schools against the Black communities. And the Panthers emerged as a militant, unapologetic response. They were not an organization of hate, but of defense. Defense against police brutality, economic exploitation, and a government that turned its back on Black lives. All right. From the beginning, the Panthers made their mission clear: community survival. They challenged the myth that African Americans were powerless victims, showing instead that unity, discipline, and courage could stand against centuries of oppression. Their presence was a direct counter to the Ku Klux Klan and the embedded white supremacist system. Where the Klan used terror, the Panthers used community programs and armed monitoring of police activities. All right. So the Panthers wasn't just sitting around letting a lot of these terrorist organizations just kind of ransack through the Black community and just do whatever they wanted to do. Right. They were fighting back. Okay. And thank God they did, all right? Because I'm pretty sure there were a lot of African Americans back then that probably did feel powerless. They're like, man, just don't deal with it. Just bow down, bro. Why you fighting back? Why you fighting back, brother? Just bow down. Just fall back. Let them do what they're going to do. The Black Panther Party wasn't having that shit, all right? You got a lot of innocent African Americans who were losing their lives, all right? Even by the systems that were really there to uphold justice in the community. They're essentially like the face of a lot of violent crimes in some cases against the Black community. All right. So the Black Panthers, they stood up to fight. Okay. Yet the Panthers were villainized in the press and targeted by the FBI's COINTELPRO program, which labeled them as extremists to discredit their true purpose. All right. Their legacy has too often been distorted. See, the FBI. So you got to pay attention to these FBI, CIA organizations too. All right. I know a lot of you people, not all of you guys, but you guys live in fear. So you're scared to say this. You're scared to say that. You're scared to talk about this. You're scared to talk about that. All right. That's how they monopolize on a lot of you niggas, because they know you're so afraid for your life. You're so scared. And what message do you send to the younger people? All right. What message do you send to the people who are being oppressed, who are being murdered, who are being just ostracized and just lynched and hanged? You're like, you don't even want to open up your fucking mouth. All right. In the scripture, it says to speak for those who can't speak, for the oppressed. All right. It's like, my people are dying, are perishing for their lack of knowledge. All right. So it's like, I really salute the Black Panther Party and the courage, all right, that it took to, you got the damn FBI trying to take them out, which a majority of are a white organization, all right? So it makes sense. So their legacy has too often been distorted, painted as violent driven, while their revolutionary love for the Black community has been erased. Understanding their origins, work, and vision reveals why their movement was one of the most powerful responses to white supremacy in American history. Hey, what's up, Ezra? So I just have some points on this. So their origins in Oakland, 1966, founded by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, the Black Panther Party began as a response to the unchecked police brutality in Oakland. All right. So this is where California played a major role. I know I was saying earlier in my Ku Klux Klan video, I'm like, damn, where the fuck was California at? Where were Southern California's at, man? When all this, Black people were fighting, they showed up in that Black Panther Party. All right. Hey, what's up, Stud Studios? What's good, man? Yeah, man, it's been a long day, man. I had the day off, but I was still doing some work behind the scenes, man. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. You say it's been a long day. I hope you have a restful weekend. You got a busy weekend coming? So, founded by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, the Black Panther Party began as a response to unchecked police brutality in Oakland. All right, unchecked. So it was police brutality left and right, and it was like nothing was happening, nothing was becoming of it, nobody was fighting. It was just crime and violence and injustice against the Black folks. And it's just like they just was letting it go on. I'm not feeling the best, so probably not. Oh, okay, man. I'm praying for you that God give you the strength, man, and give you the courage and the motivation to get out there and to get to it, man. And I'm praying you have a better weekend, man. Sorry to hear that you're not feeling the best, bro. Sorry to hear that, man. And these are some really, really, perilous times, man. So I can understand. So, no, of course, bro. Of course, I'm just doing an African American history series on some of the systemic infrastructures and foundations that have been in place since history, that a lot of these perpetrators of white supremacy and sort of like these subtle attacks on the Black community are kind of the platforms essentially that they're kind of powered up off of, right? That they're trying to remove all these indicators and these cues of, I want to reveal some of these platforms, all right? It says what it was done in the dark will come to light, all right? We're doing a light show over here. So somebody else calling me. Damn, man. YouTube, man. It's like, in order for you to do a fucking YouTube video, you got to have no life, man. It's like YouTube is like a magnet. It be attracting all kind of shit. Do you think the Lions will win on Monday? I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure. I hope they do. I'm not sure. I hope they do. Yeah, somebody was just calling me. Damn, why motherfuckers call me right when I'm doing the live, man? I wasn't doing shit the past 30, 45 fucking minutes sitting on my damn hands, man. It didn't get one phone call. As soon as I start speaking this fucking knowledge, motherfuckers calling me out of nowhere, man. Let me silence my notifications, man. Damn, you can't trust people. People be on some random ass shit in America, man. You just don't know where these motherfuckers are coming from. All right, so this says they organized patrols to monitor officers carrying. Let me go back. Founded by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, the Black Panther Party began as a response, all right, to unchecked police brutality in Oakland. I know whenever I go live, someone has to start blowing up my phone. Yeah, what the fuck is up with people in America, man? There's some random motherfuckers. Like when you ain't doing shit, your day is dry, you fucking watching the paint dry, ain't nobody calling you for shit, right? You're just sitting there twiddling your fingers and shit. As soon as you start doing something productive and you start teaching and you fucking then presenting your project, you done research on, now everybody's fucking calling you, man. Y'all Americans, man, y'all fucking weirdos sometimes. So it says they organized patrols to monitor officers carrying firearms legally to deter abuse. This was not aggression, it was defense built on the constitutional right to bear arms. Why this matters. The Panthers flipped the script, showing that Black communities could stand firm against violence instead of suffering in silence, right? Shit, I'm pretty sure a lot of black people were like, "No, don't be doing that. Don't be carrying them guns, man. Them boys gonna get you, man. Don't be." Some black people do be scared as a motherfucker, man. Like, even to this day, man, they so scared. I have to get going. I have to eat, and then I'm going to bed because I'm tired. Have a blessed day and weekend. Go Lions. Yeah, man. Go Lions. You have a blessed day and weekend too, man. I hope you feel better, bro. I appreciate you coming in, checking in too, man. Good seeing you. The 10-point program. The Panthers drafted a 10-point program demanding freedom, decent housing, full employment, fair trials, and an end to police brutality. These demands reflected not fantasy, but urgent daily realities for African Americans. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Why this matters. It remains a blueprint for justice, as many of those same demands, economic equality and fair treatment, are still unfulfilled today. All right. So the Panthers wasn't just the organization walking around with fucking guns. All right. They had a plan. They had a strategy. All right. They were trying to, right, essentially reintegrate and proportionally in an appropriate way, get black people their fair share, man. Let them work, let them have a job, let them, let them being able to provide for their families. Okay, give them a fair trial. Damn, already got the government infiltrated by the KKK. They're pretty much all over the marching all around the fucking place in 1925, right? They're revitalized by the birth of a nation. So that already done programmed Americans to look at black folks a certain way. All right. So you fucking practically paranoid everywhere you go. You don't know the system's for you or against you. Come on, give us a fucking break, right? I can see that. So these demands reflected not fantasy, but urgent daily realities for African Americans. Why this matters, it remains a blueprint for justice, as many of those same demands, economic equality and fair treatment, are still unfulfilled today. Police patrols and armed resistance. By openly carrying guns and observing police, the Panthers confronted white supremacy directly. California lawmakers, backed by then Governor Ronald Reagan, passed stricter gun laws, largely in response to the Black Panther patrols, of course, right? So you even got the fucking president working against, a lot of black folks trying to just, put peace in their communities, give a lot of these younger black children and these women a sense of just safety, right? The president, like, no, we don't want you niggas carrying no damn guns. Why this matters. Their very presence exposed hypocrisy. When whites bore arms, it was patriotism. When blacks bore arms, it was a threat, right? Free breakfast programs, 1969. The Panthers launched community breakfast programs for children. I didn't know that. Feeding tens of thousands across the country. This simple act was so powerful that the FBI labeled it one of the party's greatest threats to national security. Damn, the Panthers just out there feeding eggs and bacon and shit to the youth to kind of help just pour and feed our communities. And the FBI even looking at the damn breakfast as a threat, right? Damn, why this matters. Feeding children should never be political, but the fact it was seen as dangerous shows how threatening black empowerment was to the system. Fuck. Health clinics and education. The party created free health clinics, tested for sickle cell anemia, and ran liberation schools that taught black history and political education. Hey, what's up, Lee? What's going on, bro? Good to see you. All the people in there today. Doing good, man. Just doing African-American series, all this discrimination and hatred going on towards black people, man. I wanted to power them the fuck up. In the Bible, it says, my people are destroyed for their lack of knowledge. So I told black people, I'm going to give y'all niggas going to have a knowledge buffet on this channel. I'm gonna give you all the information. They're already wiping out your school programs and your educational programs of all kind of black history. Even the fucking president is removing slavery out of museums. So they already don't want you to know the white man's hand and a lot of this damage psychologically that black people are going through, and some of the illness and that the white Americans are dealing with, right? And black Americans, shit, So I'm giving it to you here, man. But I hope you're having a blessed day. The kids are doing good. Kids are doing good. So, damn, I didn't know this. Health clinics and education. The Black Panther Party created free health clinics, tested for sickle cell anemia, and ran liberation schools that taught black history and political education. These programs built strength from within the community rather than waiting on a system that had failed them. This shit needs to be happening now. Why this matters. The Panthers taught that liberation is not just protest. It's building institutions that heal and educate. I know that's right. Women in leadership. Contrary to myths, women like Kathleen Cleaver, Elaine Brown, and Assata Shakur held leadership roles and shaped policy. Women made up 2/3 of the party and ran many survival programs. Why this matters. Their leadership challenged both white supremacy and patriarchy, showing that liberation had to be inclusive, right? Let's power our black women up, put them in leadership roles where they can influence policy, right? Educate them on politics. They can kind of know how to just, reorganize some of these unfair laws and policies, right? They powered the women up, right? That's what the black man need to do more today, right? You niggas in the rap industry, you went the opposite route, right? You go in these fucking videos, you put the black women down. I'm not saying all women are fucking perfect. I know they got their shit too. But damn, if men are called to lead, if you're going by your scripture and you're supposed to be the head of the household, you gotta fucking lead. All right. It don't matter what the fuck everybody else is doing. I'm gonna lead my house. All right. That's just how it is. Okay. If I gotta separate and set boundaries, I'll separate and I'll set boundaries. But I'm not gonna let other people's immaturity or their lack of knowledge, have me all fucked up. All right. Black men, you got to do better. You younger guys, you all fucked up. All right. You don't know, you ain't got respect for your black women. You're disrespecting them, you're dissing them and all this shit, right? The Black Panther Party back in the 60s, they're powering their women up, right? They're all working as a team, all right? A house divided against itself cannot stand, all right? Shit, and then you wonder why they running off with these white dudes, all right? You motherfuckers ain't treating them right, Shit, man. Confronting white supremacist groups, the Panthers openly opposed the Ku Klux Klan and other white supremacist organizations, sometimes engaging in armed standoffs to protect black neighborhoods. They were a frontline defense force where law enforcement often looked the other way, right? They showed that self-defense against racist terror was not only legitimate, but necessary for survival, okay? FBI's COINTELPRO attacks. J. Edgar Hoover labeled the Panthers the greatest internal threat to the nation, right? What nation? What nation, right? The white nationalists? What nation were they a threat towards, right? Is the question. Through infiltration, assassinations, and propaganda, all right, the FBI sought to dismantle the party. Leaders like Fred Hampton were murdered in coordinated raids. Damn, why this matter? The state's fear of black empowerment led to violence. That's why they got these black identity extremist lists, right? How extreme can you be? You only 13% of the fucking population. You ain't got a large number, you motherfuckers. So how great and broad can you be, right? I mean, we're still great. We're awesome people, but I mean, just being objective, right? There's not a lot of you motherfuckers compared to us. We dominate in Congress, the police force, educational institutions, the film industry, right? We run this shit, right? You see what I'm saying? That's how you know you got the power of God behind you. When you just don't doubt yourself. If you're small in number, if you don't feel like you look the greatest or you ain't got the most resources, if you got the power of God with you, you could put fear in millions of motherfuckers. All right. If you got God with you, he could take a small kernel of you motherfuckers and make you powerful. Look what you other races that are watching, because majority of you motherfuckers ain't black. Look at how God backed these black people. How just much influence a small ass percentage of people can have on a fucking nation. I know you gotta see that shit, Damn. It's like media villainization. Mainstream media portrayed the Panthers as violent radicals, of course, downplaying their community programs and overemphasizing images of guns and militancy, right? This narrative helped cover up their real work, all right? Feeding the community, educating, right? And protecting their people. That's all they were trying to do, right? Why this matters. The power of media manipulation still echoes today. Black resistance is often painted as aggression, while white violence is excused as defense. Right. Decline in legacy. By the mid-1970s, COINTELPRO's attacks, internal divisions, and constant surveillance weakened the party. Yet their ideas of community self-defense, empowerment, and systemic change continue to inspire movements like Black Lives Matter, which, we could argue about that. But why this matters, the Panthers planted seeds of resilience, even dismantled their vision, their vision still grows in today's fight for racial justice. Man, Black Lives Matter could have been something so great, man. Like, I don't want to. It's just I'm gonna do a video on Black Lives Matter too, because I think that needs to be talked about, because it's very a controversial kind of double-edged sword. But I just feel like that movement could have been so great, man. It was a lot of internal disorganization and just, mishandling of funds, right? That's a leadership issue, right? Man, that shit could have been so great, man. It's like, it's just almost like so sad, like how it started off and then just how it just sort of like just dismantled, right? It's like, damn, and was really in large portion, an internal. Of course, you got, the white supremacists and the racists are going to do their part, but damn, it's like, black people, we got to do better, man. That shit just, so the Black Panther Party mattered because it exposed the core of white supremacy, the idea that black communities must remain dependent and powerless. By organizing survival programs, standing against police violence, and demanding equality, the Panthers proved that liberation could be built from the ground up. They were demonized not because they were violent, but because they were effective. All right. Today, we live with the echoes of their struggle: food insecurity, police brutality, and systemic inequality. Right. They still remain pressing issues. Right. The lesson of the Panthers is clear. All right. When communities take care of their own, when they speak truth to power, the system will try to silence them. But history shows us that their vision cannot be erased. It lives on in every fight for justice. Salute to the Black Panthers, man. Salute to you guys, man. I know a lot of you guys are still have chapters and you're still doing the work and things like that, man. Salute to y'all, man. Just reading that just touched my heart, man. They need to make a current movie about that, man. All right. Salute to you guys, man. Hey, what's up, Karen? Salute to you. So let's talk about white supremacy, all right? White supremacy and the KKK, the false crown of power, all right? What is this thing the Black Panther parties was fighting against? What is white supremacy? What does it mean to be white supremacy? Is it white supremacy? Is it white inferiority, right? There's a dialectic there. Is it supremacy? Are you really supreme if you got to kill people who fucking are really a small, tiny, itty bitty bitty bit of population? Is that supremacy, right? Let's look at what is. Let's really demystify white supremacy. What is that, right? When people say that, right? What does that mean? White supremacy in America has often been described as a position of dominance, but in truth, it reveals a deep insecurity. At its core, it was never true supremacy. It was fear. Let me say that again. White supremacy in America has often been described as a position of dominance, but in truth, it reveals a deep insecurity. At its core, it was never true supremacy. It was fear. All right. The Black Wall Street incident needs to be taught to more students. Randy Coney, amen. Hey, I am so glad you said that. I was looking at Speed, I Show Speed a couple days ago, and he was in Oklahoma, and it got to be a connection in the universe, because I sure was thinking like, man, Black Wall Street. That thought had came to my head. I'm gonna do a video on that. I'm glad you said that. Why didn't I push that thought forward? It sure popped up in my head. I was like, man, Black Wall Street. He need to go check out Black Wall Street, the history of Black Wall Street. Yeah, man, you're absolutely right. I'm gonna do some research on that. Thank you for mentioning that, Randy Coney. I appreciate you. My name's Randy too. The Randy family. Salute to you. You know, my mom, she named me after Randy Jackson out of all the fucking Jacksons. I'm like, damn, you gonna name me after Randy Jackson? I couldn't be fucking Michael. But it is what it is. It is what it is, man. For a long time, I hated my name. I'm glad I got a Randy in here. I was like, she gonna name me Randy? People be Randy, like, yeah. It's like, but seriously, so white supremacy in America has often been described as a position of dominance, but in truth, it reveals a deep insecurity. At its core, it was never true supremacy. It was fear. Fear that African Americans, indigenous peoples, Asian immigrants, and other minorities could grow in number. Thank you for subbing, Randy. I appreciate it. So it wasn't just black folks. These white people were like, I don't want any of these fucking minorities to grow in power. These motherfuckers like try to kill us, right? When you're living in fear, you're paranoid about every fucking body. You're even looking at your damn dog side eye. Like, I gotta train that damn dog, right? It was fear that African Americans, indigenous peoples, Asian immigrants, and other minorities could grow in number, knowledge, and influence, all right? Destabilizing the illusion of white dominance. That fear birthed violent systems meant to preserve hierarchy, from lynching to exclusion laws, from the KKK's terror to the redefining of black neighborhoods, all right? Film, politics, and American institutions work together to cement this myth. The birth of a nation, we talked about that earlier, 1915, turned Klansmen into heroes. on the screen, embedding their terror into American cultural memory. Can you imagine watching a fucking silent film where the black man is a fucking criminal? If it's not enough to watch a film with words and the motherfucking black man is a bad guy, you got to interpret it off your own mind. And this is back in 1915, where it wasn't a lot of us. It was already a lot of just segregated laws. And you need to tell me you gotta watch a silent film of some fucking rape. How satanic is that, man? Like, I'm gonna give you motherfuckers a silent film on how bad these black people are. You make what you want to make of it. Shit. That's some deep, that's like a fucking gut punch. You know what I mean? Like, they're just watching images. They were watching images. Hey, what's up, A and J? What's up, Dizzy? What's good with you guys? Yeah, I always say hello to my live, man. I always show love, man. Always show love. Yeah, I always show love, man. It's just I'm teaching right now. I'm in my bag, and I got to get as much of this shit out as possible for my daughter come home. Because then when she come, I don't got time for shit. Because I got to go back on daddy duty. So I'm trying to spit this shit out. But I see you guys in there. I appreciate you, A and J, for tapping in, man. I appreciate you, man. I don't know what you wrote in there the first time. I can't pronounce that shit, man. So, fear that African Americans, indigenous peoples, Asian immigrants, and other minorities could grow in number, knowledge, and influence, destabilizing the illusion of white dominance. That fear birthed violent systems meant to preserve hierarchy, from lynching to exclusion laws, from the Ku Klux Klan's terror to the redefining of black neighborhoods. Film, politics, and American institutions work together to cement this truth, all right? And this myth, actually, not truth. The Birth of a Nation, 1915, turned Klansmen into heroes on the screen, embedding their terror into American cultural memory. Laws, police departments, and courts often operated as enforcers of the same ideology, even when cloaked in neutrality. The system became the mask, so that even when the Klan's hood was removed, the infrastructure of white supremacy kept its vision alive. In modern America, white supremacy is rarely spoken about directly. Its symbols have been taken down, but its machinery has not been dismantled. The silence is part of its power, right? Silence and not really talking about, hey, yeah, we're trying to dominate you motherfuckers, by not really explicitly putting it out there. It's almost like being like remaining anonymous, right? It's like they're still doing the KKK's tactics of wearing a hood, but they're putting a hood over their fucking mouth, right? Their tongue has like a little fucking baby hood on it, right? Where they're not, they don't want to reveal the nature of that fucking tongue, right? So it's still the same thing. The silence is part of its power, keeping African Americans and other marginalized groups trapped in economic disadvantage, while discouraging open conversation about the price paid by those who dare to resist, all right? People shed blood for this fucking shit, all right? That's why I don't got no shame in me. I ain't got no fear. If I die, I know where the fuck I'm going, all right? I asked to be here, shit. So, people died and shed blood for black people, for white people, for us to fucking be able to get along and to be able to live in harmony with each other. That can be argued. Some people say, hey, when you niggas was by yourself and you was more powered up, you got with the white people, now you lusting after them. But the point is, people died just for you motherfuckers just to be humans, all right? And to get along. AJ, man, I'm gonna have to put you in timeout, man, because you fucking up my flow, bro. So no shame at all, man, into speaking this and teaching this. And it's not meant for everybody to understand. The shit's going over your fucking head. It's not for you, all right? For people who's receiving it, it's for them. So this shit ain't for everybody, all right? I'm not fucking, trying to make sure everybody understand. This is for the people who need to fucking understand, all right? So the silence is part of its power, keeping African Americans and other marginalized groups trapped in economic disadvantage, all right? While discouraging open conversation about the price paid by those who dare to resist. Speaking truth has historically cost lives, reputation, and safety. Yet breaking the silence remains the only way to dismantle its grip. 25 points on white supremacy, man. So the origins are in colonial hierarchy. This is back in the 1600s, all right? So white supremacy traces back to colonial Virginia, where laws in the 1600s codified slavery as a racial system, deliberately dividing poor whites from enslaved Africans to prevent unity, all right? So white supremacy was engineered to maintain control over land, labor, and class conflict, okay? Bacon's Rebellion, Fear Response, 1676. When poor whites and Africans briefly united against the elites, The planner class responded by hardening racial categories, ensuring white identity carried privilege even for the poorest whites. All right. So white supremacy was reinforced to break solidarity between oppressed groups. So at one point there were, poor whites and African slaves coming together to try to kind of fight against the system, but they just turned it up a notch, right? So founding era contradictions, 1776 and 1791. While the Declaration of Independence spoke of equality, the Constitution embedded slavery and categorized African Americans as 3/5 of a person, ensuring structural white dominance. All right. American democracy was built with white supremacy as its silent foundation. All right. So again, from my previous video, the birth of the Klan, 1865, founded in Pulaski, Tennessee. The Ku Klux Klan emerged after the Civil War as a direct reaction to Black freedom, using violence to enforce white control during Reconstruction. All right, so the KKK was the armed wing of white supremacy during America's rebuilding. So Reconstruction violence, 1865 to 1877. The Klan assassinated Black leaders, burned schools, and terrorized communities, undermining Reconstruction governments that sought racial equality. All right. 1871, federal crackdown and retreat. The Ku Klux Klan Act gave the federal government power to suppress Klan violence, but by 1877, federal troops withdrew, allowing white supremacy to return unchallenged. All right. Jim Crow infrastructure, 1890. Southern states institutionalized segregation through Jim Crow laws, banning Black people from equal schools, transportation, and voting rights. All right. The myth of racial purity, early 1900s. Pseudoscience like eugenics spread the idea that whites were genetically superior, all right, influencing immigration restrictions and sterilization programs. I want to say there was a really good book about this called The Mismeasure of Man, how for a while, a long time, a lot of the scientists and the physicians based sort of like your intellect and your intelligence based off of the size of your skull or the size of your brain. So they had all these dead skulls and I said dead skulls, all these sort of like skull collections and things like that, where they were trying to like scientifically prove like, yeah, the Black man, their head is smaller. So that means they're not as intelligent as us. It's called The Mismeasure of Man. We had to read that in college. My teacher was really, really strong on us learning our history, man. I really appreciate her, man. Salute to my college. I really appreciate you guys. Alliant International University. Dr. Griffin, she really, put us, was really increasing our awareness around the school to prison pipeline. And she was just a really great professor, man. Salute to Dr. Griffin. So the Klan's second rise, we talked about that in 1915 due to the birth of a nation. We already talked about that. The Klan in governments, we already talked about that. At its height, the Klan had millions of members controlling legislature in Indiana, Colorado, and Oregon, with governors, senators, and judges openly aligned with them. So the economic suppression of Black progress, 1920s to the 1930s, from denying loans to destroying prosperous Black towns like Tulsa, right? Like Tulsa's Greenwood district in 1921. White supremacy targeted Black wealth directly. I'm going to do some more research on that. Tulsa's Greenwood district in 1921. All right. Redlining and house segregation, 1934. Federal housing policies drew red lines around Black neighborhoods, denying mortgages and locking African Americans out of wealth building opportunities. Damn. So now these communities and neighborhoods where all the Black folks at, you guys are not going to be able to get some of this substantial wealth generating real estate. All right. You guys will stay your ass in the ghetto. All right. Wow. Gee, I wonder how that impacted, Black folks 50 to 100 years later. All right. Everything is pretty much capitalized and just fund driven through a lot of these real estate infrastructures, right? That a lot of Black folks were kept out of, right? And people are still capitalizing off of that land to this day. All right. That's why when you move into a lot of these neighborhoods, these families been there from generations to generations to generations. All right. So they're not trying to get rid of them houses, to a lot of niggas, depending on who they are, So policing as enforcement. This is the 20th century. Sheriffs and local police often acted as allies of the Klan, arresting Black activists while ignoring white violence. Though often framed as a Southern issue, so this is the white supremacy in the North. Segregation and violence against Black families appeared in northern cities like Chicago, 1919 race riots. All right. Backlash to civil rights, 1950s to the 1960s. As the civil rights movement gained momentum, white supremacist groups bombed churches, lynched activists, and fought desegregation orders. All right. The murder of Emmett Till, 1955. What's up, Stud Studios? The brutal killing of a 14-year-old Emmett Till in Mississippi and the acquittal of his murderers revealed white supremacy's impunity. All right. I'm reading on the white supremacy and the KKK. What is white supremacy? You know, what are some of the origins and the history of white supremacy? I talked about the Black Panthers and what exactly were they sort of like responding to and fighting against. So a lot of people don't really understand the different legs to white supremacy. Sometimes when we say white supremacy, they think it's just a white man in a suit, right? It's more than that. It's a history connected to this term. So that's what I'm just breaking down. These are my own notes that I did online. So political dog whistles, 1960s through the 1980s. Instead of open Klan rule, politicians use coded language such as law and order, welfare queens to sustain racial hierarchy while denying racism. So that's what's happened. A lot of these different open sort of just obvious discriminatory sort of like laws and policies now turn into sort of like, you know, coded language, right? And certain words and certain concepts, it's become now a war of words, you know, essentially, and them using certain terms to sort of like, you know, recreate in their minds the identity of, you know, African Americans by saying certain things like, you know, you're liberal, you know, you liberals, or, you know, you leftists, and these type of things like that. Which is just another way of maintaining that sort of like supremacist ideology. All right. So I already did a video on the left and the right already, so I already broke that down. The war on drugs, 1980s to the 1990s, policies disproportionately targeted Black and Latino communities, fueling mass incarceration while presenting as crime control. All right. The myth of colorblindedness, 1990s. As legal segregation ended, the narrative shifted to pretending race no longer matters, right? Silencing conversation about ongoing structural inequity. Okay. Supremacy hides best when it claims not to exist. So white supremacy online, 2000s to the present. Digital platforms allowed extremist recruitment, spreading supremacist ideology globally with coded memes and forums. Supremacy migrated from burning crosses to digital networks. All right, man, have a blessed night. I'm almost done, man. I had to redo my intro video to my last Ku Klux Klan video because I got to edit it out tomorrow because it's all lagged. So I just wanted to reread it and connect it to the Black Panther Party and white supremacy in general. So yeah, man, I hope you have a blessed night, man, and you feel better, man, and have a good weekend. So the Klan's decline, supremacy survival. While Klan membership shrank, supremacy thrived through voter suppression laws, policing, and school inequality. All right. So the system outlived the organization. Silent infrastructure of power, banks, universities, and corporations with racist past still benefit from generational advantages, rarely addressing their complicity. All right. White supremacy is an economy, not just an ideology. All right. And suppression of Black voices, from assassination of leaders like Medgar Evers, 1963, to FBI surveillance of Martin Luther King Jr., speaking out carried deadly risk. All right. And you see this to this day where just a lot of these white people who just thrive, the individuals who happen to be white, not all white people, they just thrive off of censorship. You can't, you know, I've seen people, they just shrink around having conversations of truth as soon as they get in like certain spaces. All right. They're so intimidated. They're so scared, but they'll talk shit to niggas all day. Right. They get around Black people and just go fucking motor mouth. Right. But as soon as they get around a group of white people or white women or older white people that, you know, they're so quiet and timid and shit, you know, so that's the part of the tactic, man, is to suppress Black voices. All right. Global dimensions. How much power I got? I got some power. White supremacy also targeted Native Americans, Latinos, and Asians, reinforcing immigration bans like the Chinese Exclusion Act, 1882. All right. Modern silence and resistance. Today, White supremacy operates subtly through economic disparity. But African American voices, art, and movements like, BLM, which, again, it wasn't, I'm not going to sit up here and degrade, the spirit of what, Black Lives Matters was trying to, execute. However, there were a lot of just internal infrastructure issues that needs to be discussed. I'll probably do that in another video, but, they tried to do their best. Supremacy thrives in silence, but resistance thrives in truth. So yeah, really the purpose of this video was just to kind of repeat my introduction to the Ku Klux Klan video because I got to delete it out. But yeah, to empower African Americans, the African American youth specifically, all right, because a lot of the elders, a lot of times they don't want to be bothered with you younger people because they think all of you guys are criminals and you're rapping and they kind of marginalize you guys. So I love you, I want to try as much as I can, and this information is all out there. So I'm not reinventing the wheel, but have a place where you can come and have sort of like your plate, already prepared for you here on my channel, man. Mindset apart, man up mental health, sons becoming men. So I'm glad I was able to get all of that in. This was a great session. I appreciate all my viewers and people who will probably be viewing and watching after. I hope you guys have a blessed weekend, and praying that God keeps you guys safe and protected, from the hatred out here that's in the world. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. All right. So don't get discouraged. Watch through some of these videos. If you're not in school and when you're out there in the streets and you're bullshitting, go in some of these videos and learn your history. All right. I'm not going to only just stay on white supremacy. All right. I'm also going to talk about some positive things that Black and white people. I'm going to talk about when I get to the white community series. I'm going to talk about some, white people who actually were fighting, with us, in some of these movements. I'm going to do a video like my brother said on the Black Wall Street. And, I think I'm probably do 2 more on the series, and I think that'll be good for now. But I'm still going to keep the spirit, but I'm gonna go into the white community, talk a little bit about their history, right? And then also talk about some of the white people who actually fought and sacrificed, for the African American community as well. All right, the white man is not the enemy. The white woman is not the enemy. The enemy is the enemy. All right. It's just they masquerade. The spirit of that enemy, of that devil, can show up any kind of fucking way. All right. Don't fool yourself. All right. They can even look like you. All right. Have a blessed one. Peace.